Hey everybody, and welcome to our latest sponsored Q&A here on the new GameDeveloper.com. I'm Chris Graft, publisher at Game Developer. Here's a recent chat that I had with Bruce Grove, CEO and co-founder of Polystream. I enjoyed this chat, and I hope you do too. Hey Bruce, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Chris.
Yeah, great. So let's just get right to it. Can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and what you're up to now?
So I was a systems engineer. I started my career actually working on fast jets and avionics many years ago. Mm-hmm. And that journey took me through telecoms, bizarrely, and telecoms actually took me to Silicon Valley. I was working for a startup that got acquired by Sun Microsystems back in the late 90s. And that led to me going out to Silicon Valley, where I started a journey of backwards and forwards, different startups, and sort of really living the California dream for a while. And from there, I actually went out to Austin, moved to join Dell to start. I was part of the team that was working on XPS gaming, just as Dell was getting into it before we bought Alienware. And I'd been a lifelong gamer. This was awesome. We were building the Dell XPS desktops. And now I was working in video games as well, which was just huge amount of fun. And from there, I decided to go back to California. I was very early in at a startup, first head of engineering for a company that was called OnLive. Mm-hmm. And OnLive was the big name in cloud gaming for quite a while. And I rode that journey. It took me back to the UK, where I became the GM for OnLive in Europe. And then when we finally sold off OnLive to Sony, I actually started my own company in the cloud gaming space called Polystream.
All right. So I'm actually in Austin. So you've come right through. So that's quite the background. Can you talk about, what you do at Polystream and what does Polystream do? What does it provide?
Polystream was founded with looking for a different way to do cloud gaming. A lot of the challenges that we've seen from how it's working, how it's built, we're not really talking about in the public domain still. It's a challenge to build it because it's really expensive. It's hard to scale. And the technology is fundamentally, can I put a game machine into a rack in the cloud and then serve people a game? And that's proven very, very difficult to build huge platforms, particularly when you look at the number of consoles that are out there, the number of gaming PCs that are out there, the number of mobile devices that are out there. You're trying to build a platform that literally needs to measure in the tens, if not hundreds of millions to scale to the same kind of user base. And we started Polystream with a different idea, and we call it command streaming. And it was the idea that we break apart the different pieces of the compute puzzle so that we can run the game's 3D applications in the cloud, but then we render them on your device. It doesn't matter what the device is. GPUs are everywhere. We have GPUs in our phone. We have GPUs in our PCs. So why don't we use them to do the drawing? Because they're really, really good at that. And that in turn has proven to be what we believe is fundamental to the direction we're heading in with creating open 3D interactive environments. And we're talking about the metaverse. I know we're going to get onto that a little bit, but it's moving away from this idea that we just put a game in the cloud because we can. Polystream's building a framework for how we build cloud native applications. How are we going to create a world where anything can be 3D, interactive, social, all of these different experiences?
Yeah. So, when you bring up cloud gaming, that does bring up skepticism, around it. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that skepticism is warranted, here?
I think it's warranted, but I often think it's warranted for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is a lot of the skepticism has come from early forays into it. People talked about video compression problems. People talked about latency problems. And those are all true things, but they're all a side effect of how do you build enough of the gaming servers in the right place that are close enough to your audience. And so latency is a thing, it's distance. If I'm going to stream a game to someone, you kind of want it to be close enough. But our networks are really good now. They're really fast. They're constantly getting faster. And we have lots of performance, but you just still need this insane amount of compute in the cloud because it's not like video. Video is a broadcast. If I stream on Netflix, I'm streaming one file to millions of people. What I'm doing with cloud gaming is I'm streaming one file to one person, and I'm doing that in real time. I don't even have hundreds of milliseconds or seconds to do the encoding. I've got to do it there and then every 16 milliseconds. So the performance and the needs of it are what is actually causing the problem. And this is why you don't see many of the cloud gaming platforms talking about their actual number of users. How many people are playing at the same time, right? We hear incredible numbers from games like Fortnite, 13 million concurrent users. We see this Fall Guys, the number that were playing at the same time just on its launch. There's no cloud gaming platform on the planet that can handle that kind of scale right now. And that skepticism is coming from they're not seeing it bring the content we want to play because it can't today. And that in turn is causing this constant friction. And so it's a chicken and egg problem today. I mean, it goes back, I said earlier, just before we started, right? You were there at 2010. I was there at 2010, yeah. There on the floor of E3 launching this thing. I still have hairs standing on the back of my neck, right? I remember the year before at GDC, hairs on the back of my neck, people flying in from all over the world saying, you can't do this. It's like, we can stream games, we just couldn't stream millions of games. And that's still the problem today. And that's what's going to cause this continued chicken and egg problem as long as we keep trying to use video the way we're doing it today.
So that kind of leads me into my next question. You had brought up earlier command streaming. Can you talk about command streaming versus, pixel streaming, which you had brought up before? What's the difference there? How does that affect the user experience if they're going to be using command streaming?
So command streaming is we're sending the graphics commands to your graphics processor. And it is acting as if the game is local. Okay. So it actually draws pixel perfect. Everything you see is the game as it's meant to be. Everything is beautiful. We can stream 4K, we can stream Ultra HD, we can stream 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second, and everything's going to be drawn exactly as it should. And we do that by, in the cloud, we're running the game, we're running the application, and we're then taking this fire hose of data, and our magic, what Polystream built, is actually very, very real-time, high-speed compression and decisioning to stream these graphics commands down in an internet-friendly way. And the advantage of that, the thing that this really breaks the back of, is we just use commodity cloud compute. We're just using the CPU servers in the cloud, which are everywhere. So when we look at the number of streaming GPUs in the cloud, there's not many of them, but there's CPUs. All of us have CPU cloud within a few hundred miles of where we are today. And that's close enough. And it means using Polystream, we can go to any one of those servers. We could go to an Amazon, we can go to a Google, we could go to an Azure, and we just spin up when we need it, and we deliver the game, and then we spin back down again. And so this is what we call elastic compute. It's truly on demand. It's using the compute we already have, and it can take advantage of the edge. It can take advantage of always being close to us. That's how we overcome latency. And so it's really, instead of this idea that I'm going to give every single person a dedicated game machine, command streaming allows us to give every single person just the resource they need when they need it, wherever they are. And in turn, that changes our cost to serve to pennies per hour per user. It changes our ability to scale to cloud everywhere. And those two things combined are actually going to be key to unlocking the future of these instant experiences.
All right, that's really interesting. Now, earlier you also brought up, you said metaverse. And that is like, we can all admit that's a bit of a buzzword that means different things to different people. How do you define it? And how do you intend to make it, more than just a buzzword that everyone throws around?
I love it. I find it's very exciting that people are talking about it, because 2-3 years ago, we were looking at Polystream and how we do command streaming. And we were thinking, we need to start thinking about cloud native applications. We need to start not just it's not enough to just give me a game I can already play well locally and put it in the cloud. I want an experience I can't otherwise have. Give me giant open worlds, create new experiences for me and make them accessible to me. And 2 or 3 years ago, we were actually calling that Web 3.0. The sort of the fundamentals of Web 3.0 were AI, machine learning, semantic search, 3D, interactive, social. So we had these sorts of key pieces of it. And then about 18 months, 2 years ago, that same definition people started saying, hey, it's the metaverse. We started doing concerts inside open world games. We started putting beautiful cars and making them more about not just the game, but why are people going there? They're going there to socialize. They're going there to hang out. We've had some of this for a long time. We've had Second Life. We can go back to Ultima Online. We can go back to World of Warcraft. When I was playing it, I was quite often there just hanging out, socializing with people. I wasn't there just to go play the game.
Right.
So we have all of these things. And I think the metaverse is not giant open world, but if we look at what the films have given us, things like Oasis, things like the Oasis in Ready Player One, it shows us a 3D interactive museum. Imagine Wikipedia in that kind of world. It shows us a dance floor and a social club and a place to hang out. It shows us video games as interactive playable experiences. It shows us those same video games for spectators on the side, hanging out with their friends, watching the racing. And that, to me, is what the metaverse is about. It's about building the framework and the templates where we can create entire experiences. And it doesn't matter whether it is retail or playing a game. If I want to go to a car showroom, I could go to a virtual car showroom with my friends, be met by the dealer. I can pick all my colors there and then. I mean, look what we do with Unreal Engine today in these kinds of environments. Now imagine that I can take people there with me and show them this. And then I can go from there to a virtual club, hang out. That's the metaverse. The key to it is it's got to be accessible. It's got to be instant. It's not enough to say, download this massive game and wait for 2 hours before you can go to this new experience. I need it to be like the web. It needs to be link driven. It needs to be as easy as it is navigating pages today.
So all that said, is cloud-based, non-local gaming the inevitable future for mainstream play?
I think we've already got it. I mean, I think it's,
okay.
I think back to the Xbox One release and the outcry that it was going to be an always on device, right? And imagine games now not being always on, right? I'm a big open world RPG player. So I love the Assassin's Creed franchises. And they're games as a service, right? Every day there's a new challenge in there. Every day there's an opportunity to see other people's pictures. I'm not streaming it necessarily, but it's still an always on connected experience. And it allows me interactions with people. It allows me to meet other people and socialize if I choose to. So I can now create those experiences. I think we're already there. Imagine Pokemon Go if it wasn't online. It'd probably be a pretty terrible game, right? So, so the future of AR depends on this. And all of these experiences are leading us to what is a connected, cloud-driven experiences. And that's what it's about. It's about accessibility. It's not just about, can I stream a game? It's about, where is my compute and what do I do with it? And therefore, what experiences can I build with it?
All right. So we're running low on time, but I just want to ask real, like, this is a long question. Like, it's going to have a long answer. I mean, so like, what are like some threats and opportunities that you see? You've already talked about them a little bit, but threats and opportunities that you see that cloud gaming has going forward from here?
I think the biggest threat when we talk about cloud gaming is probably the biggest player in the room falling flat on its face, to be honest, because I think we've already been there, right? We went over this hype cycle once, we got very excited for it, and then it didn't deliver. And if the same thing happens again, but powered by $1 trillion company, everyone's saying, well, what is this cloud gaming thing? And I think that's kind of why we've got to be very careful about, what do we want from cloud gaming? Is it just that we want a console that's much smaller than the one I've already got? or do we want to actually build new experiences that we couldn't otherwise have? And I think that's the important distinction between cloud gaming versus cloud native. If I think about things like Pokemon Go, it's a simple example, but it is driven by a very complex back end in the cloud. It's created an experience that is quite magical. And we want more of that. It's what is the next one of those? What does it mean if we can use more compute? We can use more persistence. I create an even bigger world, and I can go between all of these, what we call synchronous social spaces. And it's not enough to just play a game I've already got. That's why I think cloud gaming suffers. It's not giving me anything different. If it keeps going down that path, it's inevitable. It won't go forward.
Yeah.
It has to give me something I can't already get. And that's when it will break out, and that's when it succeed. And that's why I think frameworks like Polystream and others are going to be so important in this space.
Yeah, this has been really interesting and enlightening, making me think about, this is considerably different than On Live and what you all like valiantly, went after there. And, but that's all the time that we have for today. And thanks, Bruce, so much for joining us today. And thanks everyone for watching.